I'm doing a little short photo slide, and I guess I'll have to change my biography a little bit. Dan wanted me to list all the people that I worked with that were sick and helped since the day I was born. Well, I started at 7 years old and I'm 80 and I'm still at it. So here's a little sample of some of my life and what I have accomplished despite being handicapped with crippling Parkinsonism and allergies and multiple chemical hypersensitivities and all of the above.
Okay, I'm doing a little video, and it'll be like a photo slide. But Dan wanted me to include all the people that I worked with from the time I was born. Well, I was 7 years old, but I was born in 1941 and I was perfectly healthy until 6 years old. I have vivid memories of dancing and singing and running, so I know that that's true. And that's just a little picture of when I was born. And the next one is about 1948, between 7 and 8 years old. I took care of a 3-year-old dying with leukemia. He was so frail, I put him in my doll's carriage, rolled him around the block. Children and people came to see him, chatting with him. He would just nod, too sick to speak. He would smile despite the pain he was in. It gave him pleasure. He only lasted about a few months, but I never forgot him and hope he is enjoying his eternal paradise, for he well deserves it. And that was followed by 1953. I was 12 years old, and I took care of a 7-year-old schizophrenic for 3 years. Judy lived in terror of the nightmarish demons that were attacking her. Her father was a road salesperson, never home. Her mother was absolutely heartless, not wanting her child. So it was easy for me to take full-time charge. I went around the neighborhood explaining to parents and called the school principal and begged them to teach the children not to tease her, as it triggered the nightmarish attacks. They were horrendous. Everyone cooperated, and Judy had 3 lovely years together with me. Her brother learned to love her and hugging her to calm her down. Tragic, however, when I was 15, her mother instituted Judy in North Bay Mental Ward, too far away for me to keep in touch, but I never ever forgot Judy. Then in 1964 to 1970, after I had moved to Toronto and was date raped and had my child and gave him up for adoption, and we won't even go there, I spent a great deal of time on the streets rescuing hookers, helping them get off the streets, and I visited a hospital and I did volunteer talking to and helping rape victims. I knew my mother's brother had died in the Second World War, but when I moved to Toronto, there were veterans from World War I. And around 1964, at Sunnybrook Hospital, I was asked by a doctor to visit them, and I did every Sunday. And they were in oil vats. For some reason, they had been badly burned, and I don't know anything about it. And I would read to them until the last one died, and the doctor did thank me. And I don't even remember the year now, but I do know that they had been abandoned by families. The doctor said to me, they couldn't bear to look at them. It made them ill to look at them in that condition. I said, well, my God, they're the ones suffering. And so I was more than happy to do that. I don't know how they got burned. We never discussed it. But I know that I gave them a little bit of pleasure. They always looked forward to seeing me, and I read little stories to them. They would decide what I would read. And I also, from 1970 to 75, I took care of handicapped children tobogganing on my lunch hours who were in a school bus across the street where I worked. Sorry about that. Okay, from 1970 to 75, I worked in offices, ad agencies. I modeled for designer friends and Falconbridge nickel mines. Now, this is a favorite. These were designers from Montreal, and you know, in North America, we had our own materials and our own designers. We didn't buy from China, and that has completely gone, unfortunately. But that little cap I still have, and that's from 1964, the year I met Elizabeth Taylor. But anyway, I didn't do it for money. I just like to help promote Canadian fashion designers, and I did it for them. And I also did one for Falconbridge Nickel Mines. That's me in the sink. And I also helped from 1975 to 1980. I helped an Eskimo and people on welfare learn how to make investments in real estate and become very wealthy off social assistance and out of the ghettos. In 1982 to 1982, I helped too many to list with their businesses, construction and real estate developers, including a mortgage broker. I just did it for fun. It had nothing to do with what I was actually working at and making my own living. I was written up in the Globe and Mail, and I was very successful. I owned 3 properties, and I had a private health insurance to make sure I was protected if my chronic illness since I was 6 years old got any worse. And it did. I would smile no matter how much pain I was in. I took to smoking cigarettes, which certainly wasn't a good idea. I was depressed. Not saying it was a good thing. But I was abandoned by my doctors, and 23 years. And then in 1983, I was held captive, tortured, anal raped, and my family refused to help me. So I sold my other 2 properties to buy my freedom. No matter my condition, I was a well-trained victim, and I pretended I was always okay. Then in 1984, I lost my memory and brain damaged and left to die, and the rest is history. I was left to die in a shack, and the children rescued me and took care of me, encouraging me to research my disease, which may one day save them. And I did this collage of my life because I took to the streets in a gas mask to get publicity for Parkinsonism. At the time, I thought it was caused by canola oil, which turned out to be only one factor. Yes, canola oil is poison and will do brain damage. There's evidence of that. And the medical negligence. And I thought it was called cheminosis. It would be many years later, I was given a new name called Parkinsonism. But in the meantime, I was unable to write a sentence well enough, so I got the media to help me write media stories, hoping to get publicity and help. Tom Murphy, well, he's my hero. He himself had heart damage, and he helped me with my research. He was very genius and just had an understanding. And he died at the hands of doctors' negligence and their drugs. No day goes by without I remember Tom's special chemistry. Tom had been raped by a priest as a child, brutalized, beaten by nuns in school, and his mother was so evil, she did everything she could to sabotage Tom from having a happy life. I miss him and know he is in heaven waiting for me. Then in 1994, I drove all night to take care of Dan, who had bowel cancer. I spent every day at the hospital making sure he got proper medical treatment, brought in fresh fruit, veg salads, as the hospital food was pure junk. Then in 2009, I did diet research for weight loss as Dan worked out in the gym and we discovered, to our shock, eating eggs was actually the cause. It caused some kind of metabolic something or other, and as long as he ate eggs and certain protein, he couldn't lose weight. We published it for people who struggled like him. Dan passed these out at the gym freely, and from 1995 to 2005, I helped schizophrenics, Native people, children being abused with the help of Sergeant Blake at Wasaga Beach, Ontario, Canada, while still researching my disease. In 2005, I moved back to Sudbury, that city of pollution, poison, and sin, to rescue her from abject poverty and abuse from my brother, and took care of her until she died in 2017. Also recovered sufficiently to dance, so I went to seniors and nursing homes and danced for their entertainment. I advertised, pushing legions and various groups to promote more senior dances all year round, including in the summer, not to shut down. And I traveled to nursing homes and danced for their entertainment. And in the winter, 2005 to 2022, currently, I did over 50 GoPro videos to promote cross-country skiing for children in Sudbury, Ontario, with little success. As politicians just don't care about children. But I tried. I cross-country ski to keep my leg muscles strong despite the Parkinsonism and crippling attacks since I was 6 years old. And I continue to promote to this day cross-country skiing. Walden has done a really good job and doesn't need a great deal of help from me, but Capriol and others, they're not doing very well. There's just not a lot of public support. Politicians just don't care about children. And that, I think, is from 1990 until actually right up until 2005, but most of my activity was 1990 to 94, that I took to the streets in my gas mask equipment that was donated to me by MSA Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, United States, to get publicity and media to help all victims being poisoned and denied sane medical treatment and disability like I was. Now, to my horror, miners, mechanics, military, firemen, no one had proper gas mask equipment. With the help of the American head office of the military and research that I got from the NIOSH Department of Chemical Hazards and all kinds of American agencies, I took copies to Camp Borden and copies of my media samples and spoke to the military to get Canadian military gas mask equipment better than what they had, which was not even as good as what they had in 1916 in World War I. And it actually worked. I got all kinds of military calling me, and I gave talks at different groups, and I got media, quite a bit actually. And then this is Camp Borden, which is the main headquarters in Ontario. And a funny story. At the request of a general, I got a call inviting me to the military camp to speak to the men on the subject of gas mask equipment. Now, when I drove to our military Camp Borden to speak to the military, to explain why they needed gas mask equipment, they flagged me through without checking my ID as I was in my bubble gas mask, and he said, "It's okay, Trudy. You are easy to remember and hard to forget." I always giggle remembering that. But the government refused to do anything, so I didn't give up. I called the head office, military American head office in Arlington, Virginia. I explained what was happening to our military men and women and that they were not properly equipped and that my gas mask equipment was Star Wars, and what they had was not as good as the military in World War I. Yes, they sent up 2 lawyers, and yes, they were successful by 1994. It took a bit of a battle, but it was the Americans that went to our government in Ottawa. Couldn't get the Canadian government, didn't care. And with that, Sudbury, Ontario, where I was born and raised, that poisoned me and caused my disease in the first place, which I didn't know at the time, but it did when I crippled at 6 years old. The men in the mines had equipment that was really, really not nearly as good as the MSA equipment that I had gotten several different from MSA in Pittsburgh, and I tested them all. And I had research with me, and the Canadian unions, not one cared. I was so angry and upset that again, I called the American head office, United Steelworkers Union in the United States, to help me get better gas mask equipment for our workers in the smelter, Ontario, the mines and the factory workers. And I met with some of the executives from the United States, and they promised they would, and they did. And Collingwood had a safety supply office in a tiny office the size of a small closet. And the owner agreed to help me promote the MSA gas mask equipment for painters and all factory workers. And he did. And today I know, with the amazing help of Americans, I personally saved the lives of millions of workers. But that is not all I did. No. In my gas mask, I drove for hundreds of miles all over Ontario to every fire hall and spoke with every fire chief, showing them research on disease from smoke and toxic chemicals, begging them to demand our government get into the 20th century and provide them with gas mask equipment. Not one fire hall had gas mask equipment of any kind, and today most have, but still, many men and women don't wear proper equipment because they are being denied the truth that they're being poisoned to deserve the right to proper protection. But I did all that, and I was never well, but I made sure that I did something with my life that was worthwhile. Recap. And currently I continue to promote skiing for children and dance for seniors. Although I'm going to live in isolation for no more dancing for me because of COVID, I tried to get schools to put dancing and skiing back into the school system like it was, but I couldn't get public media or public support. I spend currently, and have done all my life, but currently, since 2017, after my mother passed away from an antibiotic, it killed her and it caused, anyway, I have that. That's clindamycin. Don't touch it. But anyway, okra continues to keep me alive, and I spend 2 to 3 hours daily to help people sick, poisoned with mold, toxic chemicals, air, food, water, beverages, and I save them from what I have endured. And I have been partially successful, as I did get gas mask equipment for the military, the miners, and the men in the mines. And that's my story. For a sick, handicapped person, I guess I've done pretty darn good. What do you think?